Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! In the quiet sanctum of his apartment, the soft glow of a laptop painted the room in a tranquil azure hue as midnight loomed. The outside world reverberated with the muted pulsation of the city's distant traffic, while within, serenity prevailed, disturbed only by the rhythmic tapping of keys and the faint slurping of a protein-rich concoction. A solitary figure, his musculature emphasized by the dim light, sat hunched over the computer, his determined mumble breaking the silence.
There has to be something that aids in recovery.
The man, Cash Warren, embarked on a quest through the labyrinth of the web, tirelessly scrolling for fitness secrets. His hunger for knowledge, akin to his voracious appetite for physical improvement, drove him. His attire, a simple gray t-shirt, strained under the burden of his impressive physique, a testament to years of dedicated training. At 32, his regimented lifestyle mirrored his military-inspired haircut. Short brown hair betraying no hint of indulgence or extravagance. Fatigue threatened to overpower his determined stare as he relentlessly clicked through one final web page. Hope sparked in his voice, despite fatigue's heavy hand. This could be the one. The power of online recommendations and the promise of swift recovery drew him like a beacon, guiding him to his potential salvation. Without much further investigation, Cash entered his payment information and finalized the order. The confirmation email arrived instantly, but he was too tired to review it properly. He shut his laptop and headed to bed, completely unaware of what he'd actually purchased. 2 weeks later, a small package arrived at his door. Cash tore it open eagerly, expecting the usual container of protein powder or pre-workout. Instead, he found a discreet white bottle filled with small pink pills.
What the hell?
He turned the bottle in his hand, reading the label. Advanced Female Hormone Support Formula. Cash's first instinct was to contact customer service for the mix-up, but curiosity made him pause. He opened the bottle and examined the pills. They looked harmless enough. The information pamphlet claimed they were made from all natural ingredients and promised balanced hormone levels. Cash had always been interested in biohacking and experimenting with different supplements. Maybe there was something to this.
Probably just a marketing gimmick anyway,
he reasoned, setting the bottle on his kitchen counter. But the bottle remained there, catching his eye over the next few days whenever he prepared meals. After a particularly frustrating workout where he'd failed to increase his bench press weight for the third week in a row, Cash came home irritated and impulsive.
What's the worst that could happen?
He popped one of the pink pills into his mouth and washed it down with water.
Probably just overpriced sugar pills.
The next morning, feeling no different, Cash took another. By the end of the week, it had become part of his routine. Wake up, take a pill, protein shake, workout. He even started bringing the bottle to work, tucking it among his other supplements. The first month passed without incident. Cash almost forgot about the unusual nature of the pills as they became just another part of his regimen. However, during the second month, subtle changes began. His intense workouts started feeling more difficult. Weights that had once been manageable now challenged him. He attributed this to stress at work or poor sleep quality. When his skin began to feel softer and more sensitive, he thought it must be the new body wash he'd purchased. By the third month, the changes became impossible to ignore. Cash stood before his bathroom mirror one morning, towel wrapped around his waist after a shower, and stared at his reflection in confusion. His chest looked different, slightly puffy and tender to the touch. Running his hands down his sides, he noticed his waist seemed smaller, while his hips had a new, subtle curve.
What the hell is happening to me?
He whispered to his reflection. That evening, Cash finally did what he should have done months ago. He researched the pills he'd been taking. Horror and fascination mingled as he read about estrogen supplements, their effects, and their purpose. The bottle he'd ordered, the one he'd been faithfully consuming for 3 months, was meant for hormone replacement therapy.
"I've been taking female hormones,"
he said aloud to his empty apartment. His voice sounded different in his ears, too, slightly higher, softer around the edges. Cash's first reaction was panic. He threw the bottle into the trash and paced his apartment, wondering if he should see a doctor immediately. But as the initial shock subsided, another feeling emerged. Curiosity. He returned to the bathroom mirror, examining his changing body with new understanding. His muscles hadn't disappeared, but they had softened. His facial features seemed less angular, and there was something about the way his brown hair fell across his forehead that suddenly seemed restrictive, too short for his changing face. That night, instead of researching how to reverse the effects, Cash found himself looking up information about gender transition, hormone therapy, and personal stories of transformation. He fell asleep with his laptop still open, dreams filled with images of a different self. The following week brought a package he'd ordered discreetly, a simple sundress with a floral pattern, size medium. Cash's hands trembled as he opened it. The fabric felt cool and light between his fingers, nothing like the stiff cotton of his t-shirts or the rough denim of his jeans. With the apartment blinds drawn, he slipped the dress over his head. The fabric settled around his changing body, highlighting the new curves while forgiving the parts that remained masculine. Cash turned slowly before the mirror, heart racing.
"Hello,"
he whispered to his reflection. For the first time in months, perhaps years, something felt right. That evening, Cash didn't leave his apartment, but he also didn't change back into his male clothes. He moved through his living space, feeling the dress swish around his legs, adjusting to the new sensation of fabric and freedom. The next day, he ordered more clothes, a pink blouse, a knee-length skirt, simple flat shoes. He also ordered books about transgender experiences and makeup tutorials. While waiting for these items to arrive, he let his brown hair grow, no longer visiting his regular barber every 2 weeks. When his friend Miguel called to invite him for their usual weekend basketball game, Cash declined.
"Everything okay, man?"
Miguel asked.
"Haven't seen you at the gym either."
"Just going through some changes,"
Cash replied, his voice carefully controlled to hide its changing timbre.
"Job stuff?"
"Something like that. I'll catch up with you soon."
But Cash knew that when they eventually did catch up, it wouldn't be as before. With each passing day, as his body continued changing and as he grew more comfortable in feminine attire, the person he had been receded further into the past. 4 months after the accidental order, Cash sat at his computer and composed an email to his supervisor at work. He requested a 2-week vacation, something he rarely did. He needed time to figure out how to return to work as his changing self. During those 2 weeks, the transformation accelerated, not just physically, but in every aspect of Cash's life. He practiced walking in heels in his apartment, learned to apply makeup through online tutorials, and began voice training exercises. He donated his male wardrobe to charity, replacing everything with clothes that matched his emerging identity. Most importantly, he chose a new name, Scarlett. The name came to him while trying on a deep red dress that hugged his developing curves. Looking in the mirror, he no longer saw Cash staring back, but someone new, someone who had perhaps been waiting to emerge all along.
Nice to meet you, Scarlett,
he said to his reflection, feeling the name settle comfortably around him, like the dress. The transition back to work required courage Scarlett hadn't known she possessed. She arranged a meeting with her supervisor and HR representative before returning, explaining her situation and her new identity. To her surprise, they were supportive, offering to help make the workplace transition as smooth as possible. On her first day back, Scarlett wore a conservative black skirt, a white lace top, and low heels. Her growing brown hair was styled simply, framing her face, which now featured subtle makeup. Nervous sweat dampened her palms as she walked through the office door. A few colleagues stared. Others pretended not to notice anything different. Miguel, who also worked in the same company but in a different department, did a double take when passing her in the hallway. "Cash?" he asked, confusion evident in his voice. "It's Scarlett now," she replied, her rehearsed explanation suddenly forgotten. "I've been going through some changes." Miguel was silent for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Okay, Scarlett. This is unexpected, but you look good. Happy." "I am." Scarlett realized it was true as she said it. Despite the stress and uncertainty, a profound contentment had settled within her. The office adjustment took time. There were awkward moments, misused pronouns, and occasionally uncomfortable questions. But as weeks passed, Scarlett's confidence grew. Her wardrobe expanded to include more form-fitting dresses, particularly in red, which she discovered complemented her brown hair and brought warmth to her complexion. 6 months after accidentally ordering female hormones, Scarlett made her transition official. She changed her name legally and began properly supervised hormone therapy under a doctor's care. The physician was surprised by her story, but confirmed that the changes were real and progressing well, even if the initial method had been unorthodox. "Your body responded remarkably well to the hormones," the doctor explained. "But we need to monitor your levels properly now." Scarlett nodded, grateful to have professional guidance for the journey ahead. A year after the fateful online shopping error, Scarlett threw a rebirth day party at her apartment. She invited close friends who had supported her throughout her transition, including Miguel, who had become one of her strongest allies after the initial shock wore off. The apartment was decorated with red balloons, and Scarlett wore a stunning crimson dress that highlighted her now undeniable feminine figure. Her brown hair fell past her shoulders in soft waves, and her makeup skills had improved dramatically. "I can't believe it's been a year," Miguel said, handing her a gift wrapped in silver paper. "You seem like you've been Scarlett forever." Scarlett smiled, accepting the present. "Sometimes I feel that way too." She opened the package to find a delicate silver necklace with a small ruby pendant. "It's beautiful, thank you." "Red is definitely your color," Miguel grinned. "Hence the name, I guess." Scarlett touched the pendant, thinking about how far she'd come. "I never planned any of this, you know. One accidental click online changed everything." "Do you ever regret it?" another friend asked from across the room. Scarlett considered the question seriously. She thought about her old life, the gym routines, the protein shakes, the constant striving to be bigger and stronger. She compared it to her current existence, the freedom to express herself, the joy of finding clothes that made her feel beautiful, the sense of finally living authentically. "Not for a second," she answered honestly. "That mistake was the best thing that ever happened to me." Later that evening, after her guests had departed, Scarlett stood on her apartment balcony, gazing at the city lights. The same skyline she'd viewed countless times as cash now seemed to sparkle differently for Scarlett. The world hadn't changed. She had. Her phone buzzed with a notification. A dating app she'd hesitantly joined a month ago showed a new message. Scarlett had been transparent in her profile about being transgender, wanting to avoid any misunderstandings or potential negative reactions. The message was from a man named Daniel, responding to her recent photo in the red dress from the party.
That color looks stunning on you. Would love to hear your story over coffee.
Scarlett smiled, typing a response. She was still getting used to dating as a woman, navigating new social dynamics and expectations. There had been disappointments and rejections, but also surprising connections and moments of acceptance. The next morning, Scarlett prepared for her coffee date with Daniel. She chose a white lace top paired with a flowing red skirt and low heels. Her makeup was light and natural, enhancing rather than masking her features. Looking in the mirror, she barely remembered the person who had once occupied this same space, ordering supplements in the middle of the night. Daniel was waiting at the cafe when she arrived, standing politely as she approached the table. He was tall, with kind eyes and a genuine smile.
"Scarlett, you look lovely."
"Thank you." She settled into her chair, smoothing her skirt.
"Have you been waiting long?" "Just a few minutes."
He gestured to the menu.
"I waited to order until you arrived."
They fell into easy conversation. Daniel worked as an architect, designing eco-friendly buildings. He asked thoughtful questions and listened attentively to her answers. When Scarlett explained her unusual transition story, he seemed more fascinated than put off.
"So, an accidental online order changed your entire life?"
Daniel shook his head in amazement. "That's incredible. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you double-checked your cart that night?" Scarlett took a sip of her latte, considering. "I used to think about that all the time, but now I believe some part of me knew exactly what I was doing. Maybe not consciously, but somewhere deeper." "That makes sense. Sometimes we know things about ourselves before we're ready to acknowledge them." The coffee date extended into lunch, and then a walk through the nearby park. Scarlett found herself comfortable in Daniel's presence, appreciating how he saw her as she was now, without the shadow of who she'd been. When he asked to see her again, Scarlett agreed without hesitation. Over the next few months, their relationship developed steadily. Daniel introduced Scarlett to his friends and family, proudly and without qualification. She brought him to office functions, where her colleagues had fully accepted her as Scarlett, many forgetting there had ever been anyone else. On their 6-month anniversary, Daniel took Scarlett to an upscale restaurant overlooking the city. She wore a new dress, deep red with delicate beading that caught the light when she moved. Her brown hair was styled in an elegant updo, showcasing the ruby earrings Daniel had given her to match her necklace from Miguel.
"You take my breath away,"
Daniel said, as they were seated at a window table with panoramic views. "This place is amazing." Scarlett looked around at the crystal chandeliers and white tablecloths. "What's the occasion beyond our anniversary?" Daniel reached across the table for her hand. "I wanted somewhere special for tonight. These past months with you have been extraordinary, Scarlett." The way he said her name always made her heart flutter. To him, she had never been anyone else. There was no before and after, just Scarlett. "I feel the same way," she replied, squeezing his hand. After dinner, they walked along the riverfront, city lights reflecting on the water. Daniel seemed unusually quiet, almost nervous. "Is everything okay?" Scarlett asked, concerned by his silence. Daniel stopped walking and turned to face her.
"More than okay. I've been thinking a lot about us, about the future."
Scarlett's pulse quickened as Daniel reached into his pocket and produced a small velvet box. He opened it to reveal a ring with a ruby center stone surrounded by diamonds.
"Scarlett, you came into my life unexpectedly, but now I can't imagine it without you. Would you marry me?"
Tears filled Scarlett's eyes as emotion overwhelmed her. 2 years ago, as Cash, she couldn't have imagined this moment. Standing here now as Scarlett, in a beautiful red dress, with the man she loved proposing marriage, seemed like something from a dream. "Yes," she whispered, then louder. "Yes." Daniel slipped the ring onto her finger, then pulled her close for a kiss. Nearby pedestrians applauded, though they were merely witnessing a happy proposal, unaware of the remarkable journey that had led to this moment. Later that night, curled against Daniel in bed, Scarlett traced patterns on his chest while admiring how the ring caught the dim light.
"What are you thinking about?"
Daniel asked, brushing a strand of brown hair from her face. "How strange life is," she replied. 2 years ago, I was a completely different person, living a completely different life. One mistake, one accidental click, changed everything. "Do you think it was really a mistake?" Daniel murmured. "Or maybe it was your subconscious pushing you toward who you were meant to be." Scarlett considered this. Perhaps. Or maybe just random chance that turned out perfectly. She held up her hand, watching the ruby sparkle. "I never planned to become Scarlett, but now I can't imagine being anyone else." "I'm grateful for that accidental click too," Daniel said, kissing her forehead. "It brought you to me." Wedding planning occupied the next several months of Scarlett's life. She threw herself into creating the perfect celebration, working with a planner to coordinate every detail. The color scheme naturally incorporated deep reds and whites, reflecting both her name and favorite fashion choices. Shopping for a wedding dress proved emotional in unexpected ways. Standing in the bridal boutique, surrounded by white gowns, Scarlett was struck by how far she'd come from the person who once bought protein powder and bench-pressed heavy weights. "Are you looking for anything specific?" the consultant asked, unaware of Scarlett's unique journey. "Something elegant, but not too princess-like," Scarlett replied. "And I'd love if it incorporated a touch of red somewhere." After trying several options, Scarlett found the perfect dress, a sleek ivory gown with subtle ruby beading along the bodice and a small train. When she emerged from the fitting room to show her maid of honor, Miguel's wife, Rebecca, who had become a close friend, both women teared up. "It's perfect," Rebecca said. "Daniel won't know what hit him." Scarlett turned before the three-way mirror, watching how the dress caught the light. "It feels right," she whispered, emotion thick in her voice. 2 years and 3 months after accidentally ordering female hormones online, Scarlett Warren married Daniel Chen in a ceremony overlooking the ocean. Her brown hair was styled in loose waves, adorned with small ruby pins that matched her engagement ring. The white dress with red accents fit her feminine figure perfectly, showcasing the transformation that had become complete, both physically and emotionally. As she walked down the aisle, Scarlett caught glimpses of the supportive faces surrounding her, Miguel and Rebecca, colleagues from work, new friends and old, even her parents, who after initial shock and a difficult adjustment period had come to accept and love their daughter. Daniel waited at the altar, eyes shining with tears when he saw her. His vows spoke of unconditional love and acceptance, of finding each other against all odds. When it was Scarlett's turn, she took a deep breath and looked into the eyes of the man who had only ever known her as her true self. Daniel, before I met you, I went through a transformation that changed every aspect of my life. It was unplanned, but turned out to be exactly what I needed. When we met, I was still learning who Scarlett was, still discovering my own story. You never asked me to be anyone other than who I am in each moment. She squeezed his hands. You helped me see that my journey wasn't about becoming someone new, but about finally becoming who I always was beneath the surface. I promise to love you with that same acceptance and understanding, today and always. The reception continued the red and white theme, with centerpieces of ruby roses and white lilies. Scarlett changed into a second dress for the evening, a more fitted red gown that allowed for dancing. She and Daniel swayed to their first song as husband and wife, her head resting on his shoulder.
Happy?
He whispered into her hair. Completely, she replied, and meant it. Miguel gave a toast that carefully honored Scarlett's journey without revealing too much to guests who didn't know her whole story.
To finding yourself and finding love, sometimes in the most unexpected ways,
he concluded, raising his glass. Scarlett and Daniel honeymooned in Italy, exploring Venice and the Amalfi Coast. Scarlett packed a wardrobe of flowing dresses in various shades of red and white, perfect for the Mediterranean climate. They took countless photos of themselves against stunning backdrops, Scarlett's brown hair shining in the Italian sunshine, her feminine figure graceful in sundresses and evening wear. In a small restaurant in Positano, Daniel watched his new wife charming the local waitstaff in attempted Italian phrases. What? She asked, catching his gaze.
Just admiring you,
he replied.
You seem so comfortable in your skin now.
Scarlett smiled, thinking about the journey. I am. It took time, but now it feels like I've always been this person. Back home after the honeymoon, they settled into married life. They purchased a house with a view similar to the one from their wedding venue. Scarlett continued advancing in her career, eventually receiving a promotion to senior management. Her unique perspective and journey gave her empathy and insight that made her an exceptional leader. 3 years into their marriage, they decided to start a family. The process would be different for them than for some couples, but both were committed to building their future together. They explored adoption and surrogacy options, eventually choosing to adopt a 5-year-old girl named Elise, who needed a loving home. Elise had been in foster care for 2 years and was initially quiet and reserved around Scarlett and Daniel. With patience and consistent love, she gradually opened up, revealing a bright, creative personality. Scarlett found herself drawing on her own experience of transformation to help Elise adjust to her new life. Sometimes big changes are scary, Scarlett explained one night while tucking Elise into bed. But they can also lead to wonderful things we never expected. Like how you and Daddy found me? Elise asked, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Exactly like that. Scarlett smiled, brushing the child's hair back from her forehead. The best things in life often come from unexpected beginnings. As Elise grew more comfortable, she became fascinated with Scarlett's closet full of beautiful clothes, particularly the collection of red dresses. Scarlett would let her try on scarves and costume jewelry, delighting in the child's joy at dress-up. You look pretty in red, Mommy, Elise declared one afternoon while Scarlett prepared for a work event in a crimson sheath dress.
It matches your name.
That's why I chose it, Scarlett replied, fastening ruby earrings. She had never told Elise about her transition, feeling the child was too young to understand the complexities. Someday, when Elise was older, Scarlett planned to share her full story, hoping it would teach her daughter about authenticity and self-discovery. 5 years after their wedding, Scarlett and Daniel hosted a vow renewal ceremony in their backyard garden. Elise, now 8, served proudly as flower girl, sprinkling red rose petals down the makeshift aisle. Scarlett wore a knee-length white lace dress with a red sash that matched Daniel's tie. Her brown hair, now longer than ever, was adorned with the same ruby pins from their wedding day. Miguel, still their closest friend, officiated the informal ceremony.
"When I first met Scarlett,"
he began, carefully choosing his words with Elise present.
"She was at the beginning of a personal journey, watching her grow into the confident woman, successful executive, loving wife, and amazing mother she is today has been inspiring."
Scarlett squeezed Daniel's hand, catching Miguel's subtle acknowledgement of her transformation.
"And, Daniel,"
Miguel continued, "you saw Scarlett for exactly who she is from the very beginning. Your love has never been conditional or complicated, just pure and supportive." After renewing their promises to each other, the small gathering of friends and family celebrated with a garden party. Elise darted between guests, proudly introducing herself as Elise Warren Chen to anyone who would listen. Later that evening, after Elise was asleep and the last guests had departed, Scarlett and Daniel sat on their patio with glasses of wine, looking at the stars.
7 years,
Scarlett mused. 7 years since that accidental order changed everything. Daniel took her hand, running his thumb over her wedding ring.
"Any regrets?"
Scarlett leaned against his shoulder, considering the question seriously. She thought about the person she had been. Cash with his protein shakes and weightlifting goals, always striving but never quite content. She compared that existence to her life now. Scarlett with her beautiful family, fulfilling career, and sense of finally living authentically. "Not a single one," she replied, lifting her glass. "Here's to happy accidents." Daniel clinked his glass against hers. "And to being exactly who you're meant to be." Scarlett smiled, feeling complete in a way Cash never had. That accidental click, that one careless moment while browsing online supplements late at night, had led her here, to this perfect moment under the stars, with her husband beside her and their daughter sleeping peacefully inside. What had seemed like a mistake had turned out to be her destiny. Scarlett Warren Chen, with her flowing brown hair and favorite red dresses, had found her true self through an unexpected journey. And she wouldn't change a single step of the path that had brought her home.
Thanks for watching, my girlies. Be sure to check out Patreon for more.